Everyone, Steve here from Right Wing Political Junkie, and today I came across an article here by Bloomberg that talks about Facebook's crisis management algorithm runs on outrage. So, oh man, Facebook is obviously facing a lot of problems. They're obviously the largest social networking platform that we have today. I think Twitter is a little bit less than Facebook. I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody's on Facebook now. Somewhere along here, I think something like 2.7 billion people are on Facebook. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, so 2.7 billion users are on Facebook. That is an incredible amount of people that are using Facebook as a platform. And to be honest with you, the problems, I think, were something that we could all see coming. They're getting attacked from a lot of different sides. The data management, whole tracking user data. They recently got hit because they were giving to what was that one company? The Cambridge company. I'd have to look at it again, but Britannica. What was the name of that dang company? I can't remember it off the top of my head, but they're getting hit for the data collection that they're doing, the stuff that they are censoring, the way that they're passing out data, selling data. I personally hate all the advertisements that come in on every one of the videos that you watch. It's like halfway through any video, you get some sort of 30-second advertisement for something you don't even care about. And I think that this kind of goes to the heart of becoming a global company starts to introduce the company to some different kinds of exposure of political systems, and can really create some troubling decisions, right? It has to really make some difficult decisions for it. So Cambridge Analytica, there we go. That was the name of that company. So this article is written by Sarah Fryer. It's on Bloomberg. Facebook's crisis management algorithm runs on outrage. So last year, a Facebook user in Sri Lanka posted an angry message to the social network. I'm not going to repeat it. You can read it yourself. But it's essentially very disparaging towards Muslims. And I personally don't like... So it's easy to call something hate speech, right? It's the term hate speech, I think, is one of those terms that gets thrown around in ways that it just shouldn't. Things that are categorized as hate speech are not really hateful. They just maybe push the boundaries of some things. But then there are certain things that are insidious in nature. And the question really becomes, at what point is Facebook responsible for the content that its users post on it? That's really kind of the heart of it. It's the same kind of thing as if, is a movie theater responsible for someone crying fire, right, in the movie theater? That's kind of the situation. It facilitates communication, but what responsibility does Facebook have to censor the people who use it? Now, I'm much more libertarian in my views, right? I'm not a libertarian party member, but I do have much more libertarian views on freedom of speech and the ability for anybody to say whatever they want, as long as in public. And one of the main reasons why I like the idea of freedom of speech is because even if somebody says something absolutely outlandish and hateful, it's easy for everyone to identify that that person is hateful and should be avoided, right? I mean, if you silence them, then all you're essentially doing is making sure that no one is exposed to them, and so they can go about continuing to be insane. Jordan Peterson made a comment in one video recently that I saw where he was talking to some academics from Germany. And it was a really interesting exchange that he had with one of them, in that, how do you determine your sanity? Right? How do you determine whether or not you are sane? You need someone else. You have to bounce your ideas off of someone else to try to gauge their reaction. And it's funny because that's even where microaggressions comes from, right? There's this idea that when you say something, you are visually looking at someone's reaction to what you're saying to help determine, almost in a nonverbal communication, what their reaction is to what it is you're saying and the sanity of what you're saying. So we need some. We need to expose even the worst, darkest places of our brains. We need to expose those things to other people to see what they have to say, or what they think of it, in order to kind of act as that guardrail of our own sanity. And I think that we see this a lot. If you think about this concept and you go into the homeless people, right? The homeless people that live on the streets, they're often shunned by society, and they end up going crazy because they're just completely ignored. They're left to only their own whims, and no one wants to talk to them. So they just kind of they become insane because they don't have anyone to converse with, and it becomes very troubling. They start to have some serious mental issues. I think that's kind of one of the same. That's kind of the same background to these, what we would consider hate-filled things that these people would say about Muslims or the Buddhists or the Sikhs or Christians or Jews, or all of these hate-filled things. In some way, we have to let the light shine on them, and we can't really necessarily always close the door on it. So that begs the question: when do you censor speech? When do you say things? When do you block things? And to me, I don't think it should be the responsibility of I don't think it should be the responsibility of Facebook or Twitter or any of these companies to figure out what should or should not be allowed on their platform. I honestly don't. I think it's more up to the viewer. If you don't like what someone says, you have the ability to block them. You can block them. That's what we need to get to. We need to get to a society that takes on more responsibility for themselves instead of always looking to Big Brother to solve their problems. That's the bottom line for me. And I think that's a very simple philosophy. It's easy for Facebook to get into. Now, I can understand there are certain cultural issues that they are going to run into. So if Facebook is going to continue to operate in Sri Lanka, they have to probably follow some laws in Sri Lanka, right? They have to make themselves available. I think the bottom line is, I think if I was in Facebook's shoes, and obviously this is just me, and they don't have to follow my advice, but honestly, I would just leave it open. And if a country like China or Russia or Sri Lanka or whoever says you're not allowed in our country so long as you hold those policies, I'm like, fine. You guys do whatever you want to. We are not going to change our philosophy just to match your politics. We're not going to do that. Because freedom of speech, I think, is a human right? I think it should belong to all humans. And if a country's political body says that somebody should not have that freedom of speech, I think that is entirely up to that country. And it's not something that a company that is a global company should necessarily adhere to. Now, obviously, there are financial reasons why Facebook gets into that sort of thing. But honestly, I think as a political philosophy for a company, I just think you can't do that. You have to remain open. So anyway, the post went up in 2018. This was this really hateful, effing dogs thing towards Muslims. The post went up in 2018 in white text on one of the playful pink and purple backgrounds. I don't think anybody really cares about that. To encourage users to show more. The sentiment about killing Muslims got 30 likes before someone else found it troubling enough to click give feedback. So 30 people liked this post, this hate-filled post, before somebody gave feedback and blew the whistle on this as hate speech. And it goes on later on to basically have Facebook say, sorry, this does not violate our community standards. And, in that particular case, I had to say good for Facebook. Even though I think that it is absolutely hate-filled. I think it's terrible what they were saying about Muslims. I think it's terrible that somebody would say something like that publicly on Facebook. But that's not for Facebook to decide. It's not for Facebook to interfere. It's this person that is whistleblowing. I can understand why they would do it, right? It's inciting violence in a way. And in some cases, I can understand why inciting violence would be one of those things that, yes, in those particular cases, maybe something should be censored, just like we do in America. Freedom of speech has really got limitations as far as whether or not they incur harm, right? If they are something that's going to cause violence or incite violence. And there's probably some gray area, right? There's some ambiguity as to what could constitute that. But I think good for Facebook for basically saying, you know what, this doesn't go against our community standards. And to me, honestly, again, the solution is block them out. If you don't like what they have to say, block them out. Or even better, engage with them. Tell them why. You know, this is why you're wrong. This is why are you, you know, maybe ask, why are you like this? To me, it seems like you should engage in conversation even with the people that you are so vehemently against. You should at least try to understand their perspective, even if it's like the worst possible thing you can possibly imagine. Like, why are you a cannibal? Right? It doesn't mean that you're going to accept it. It doesn't mean that you're going to agree with it. It just means that you should try to understand it. Because if you can understand it, you can start to talk to it a bit better, right? You can start to perhaps change some minds. Just ignoring it or just, telling Facebook to make it all go away is not going to solve the problem. It doesn't get rid of the hate, right? Blocking does not get rid of the hate, or censoring does not get rid of the hate. It's still there. It just no longer has an outlet for everybody else for it to be exposed, right? And that's a serious problem that we're finding in all sorts of platforms. Facebook, Twitter, Patreon. I mean, you name it. You name the platform that's popular, and they're running into the same kind of hate speech stuff. So, again, like I said, I think that we should be much more libertarian in our view. Let it be exposed to the light. Let everybody kind of. The fact that it got 30 likes is shameful. It should have gotten like 100 angry faces, right? It should be. I should have just as much right to say that something is wrong as I should say that something is right. And hopefully more people would object to what was being said. And I think that's what we need to have more of. We need to have more of a dialogue. We need to have more openness of expression, even of those worst possible ideas. Okay, so the article continues on to talk about, you know, how the company has gotten so much attention. Her conclusion, Facebook needed to rethink its permissive attitude towards misinformation. So this is another one of the problems. The misinformation, the whole Russia scandal that's going on, Russia collusion, and, again, who cares if it's misinformation? I think, again, people should be able to start thinking for themselves. Now, I don't think that we need to... I think the wrong direction for Facebook to take, and is the direction they're starting to take, especially like the anti-vax stuff. So I am not an anti-vaxxer. I do believe in vaccinations. I do think that there are too many things that kids are being vaccinated for, but I do think that vaccinations are important. This coming from someone who's a bit more of a libertarian in their view. But at the bottom line is, I think that, again, it goes to that idea of freedom of speech. And if somebody wants to pass along misinformation, okay. The role that Facebook should play in that is not to block it, but rather to say, like a tag on there that says, we think this is incorrect. Or, it's fine for them it's fine for them, in my opinion, to say that they believe something is misinformation and label it as such. That's fine. If they want to do that, that's perfectly fine. Just don't block it. Okay, don't block the content. Don't stop people, because all you're doing is you're forcing them to go somewhere else with that disinformation. And what ends up happening is you keep blocking more and more of these people. They start to find those other outlets and start to kind of congregate in those different areas and just get stronger and stronger, because they're just in an echo chamber that's not in your area, and it's not in the major public arena anymore. It's not, they go find some smaller place to go converse, but they're just conversing with each other, right? And they're just kind of echo chambering these ideas back and forth, and everybody agrees. And so when you have that, you don't have any rebuttal. You don't have anybody to stop it, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, especially the more and more of these people you keep blocking from the platform. So the problem, as far as you guys see it, will just continue to get worse until it eventually explodes. And that's one of the big problems, I think, in America today, is we don't have enough conversation. We have too many people that are just trying to deplatform, trying to silence, trying to censor, and going to the highest levels of authority on these things, going to Facebook, trust, what do they call it? Trust and safety team, and going to Twitter, trust and safety team, going to Patreon, trust and safety team, right? Going to all of these people trying to say we need to silence these people, we need to block out all of this. And it's the worst possible way to go about it. All you're doing is creating acrimony, and you're creating a subculture that you're not going to be aware of, that you're not going to be able to express alternative ideas to. You're going to essentially develop a group of people who are insane and come up with insane ideas because they have been separated from the rest of the people, and there's nothing to buttress against their ideas. There's no counterbalance being introduced into their lives. And as long as we keep doing that, we're going to continue to run into some of the political problems that we have. We start to see some outrageous things happen on campuses, college campuses, online, and it's a de-evolution of our society when you start to censor. Anyway, I'm going to post a link up to this. It's definitely worth a good read. Bloomberg is typically okay on the political spectrum. I think they lean a little bit more leftist than some other places, but they're not like typical trope that MSNBC type of stuff is. But it is a pretty good read, and they do kind of go through a lot of the different problems that Facebook is facing right now. I don't think that they still a consulting company affiliated with Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. I mean, they're definitely making some statements in here that I would disagree with, but overall, it's pretty good historical accuracy of what's going on with Facebook and what are some of the challenges. So I'll definitely post that in the description for this video later on. If you guys have any topics you want me to cover, if there's something going on, you want to have a discussion about news articles you want to post for me, please feel free to drop it in the comment section below this video, and I'll give it a look. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.